What's going on, Jeromes? Beautiful day for some Q&A. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions. We were currently at an undisclosed location, so this is an absentia, something like that. First up, our guy Reptar. Have you ever looked back at your past draft crushes or guys you mocked the most and seen how they turned out in the league? It would be cool to see where your guys are now and how they fared so far from a few drafts ago. I have to check myself at this at times because sometimes it colors my opinions about free agents and trades down the line. Because, I mean, a lot of times when a player doesn't work out, yes, it's certainly on the player, but sometimes it's circumstance, sometimes it's scheme, sometimes it's regime change, sometimes it's a lot of things, right? And yeah, that does shade how I perceive free agency. Like Osa Digizua, I loved him coming out of UCLA. I want him on the Vikings. You got Trey Smith as well. Fell to the 6th round in Tennessee because of concern with blood clots with his lungs, even though he played 2 full healthy seasons after the but yeah, that does affect how I see things free agency. And I have a tendency to do that where, James Daniels, I love coming out of Iowa. I wanted him when he was off the Bears as well. Ethan Posich, where I've always tried to add him to the Vikings because he was fantastic coming out of LSU, can literally play all 5 spots, and he's just good to go there. And I don't know, just like players like you fall in love through the draft process and then watch them throughout the league. It's like, I still want him. Like the candle still that would be good. Like I should go back and go through like various, because we profile a lot of players, which can be good and can be kind of bad. But it's good to cast a wide net and just go back and see who were my guys, and then just go from there and see how they panned out. We'll see. Next. Oh, speaking of my guys, Wild Bumbly, who the stud center we need to replace? Garrett getting buried. It's pretty good. In the draft, two that I really like, and this is not a high-end interior offensive line class, but 2 guys that are centers by trade. Now, I'm not including Gray Zabel, who could kick inside to center. The pride of NDSU, going to be a borderline first, top end of the 2nd round pick. But 2 guys who are legitimate centers: Jared Wilson from Georgia, as well as Jake Majors from Texas. Now, Wilson, could go day 2 at any point. I think that his high end potential is certainly there. Majors, I actually really like Majors' game, man, and the fact that he's very well seasoned, a guy who could step in day 1 and actually win the job. I think that certainly does have some value. Both of them, they're not 340-pound centers, but they have agility. They got high football IQ. They got ass. They got anchor. They have all of that stuff. Also, you throw Michael Jurgens. I think Michael Jurgens is a legitimate wild card because he had himself a good camp. Former 7th round pick out of Wake Forest, as well as he did well in preseason outside of that 1 field goal against the Raiders that got stuffed. But there will be options, and what more do you need to see from Bradbury, man? Like I honestly don't understand it. But in the draft there will be a couple center options in there as well. Next, my name's not Rick. Should the Vikings go after Deebo Samuel? No. Just imagine how potent this offense will be. Now, the Niners and Deebo, they had opened up that they had allowed Deebo and his agent to seek a trade. I think it's going to happen. I think he's just going to get cut. And with Deebo, you worry about conditioning. You worry about durability. You worried about, him not having a real position. That's actually a bonus, but he's not like a true receiver. He's not a true running back either. He is a luxury gadget player. Now, would the Vikings benefit from him? Sure, but I think some team is going to overpay him. Like you look at Washington, you look at Buffalo, you look at the Chargers. I think that there will be teams that are definitely in on Deebo, especially given the fact this is not a great receiver class. And there have been. We've actually been spoiled by several years of high-end wide receiver classes. Like this one is fine. There's going to be, there's still going to be a handful of first-round receivers. Tet, LB3, Travis Hunter if you include him, etc. But this is not like last couple of years, right? So I think Deebo could have a market. I think Deebo will get paid. Would you take Deebo for $5 million a year? Sure, but it ain't gonna happen that way. Next, B Breaker 45. Why do you think the Vikings have gone so long without a 50-point game? It's a good question. Now, 50 is a lot. And the last Vikings 50-point game was late in the season, 1998. Vikings versus the Jaguars, them in their fourth year of existence. I want to say they had some injuries. I think Mark Brunell was hurt this game because you can see in the background, number 12. I think that's something Quinn. I think that was a backup quarterback. And the Vikings putting up 50, feeling good about things. It was 3-0 after first quarter. That's how explosive that 98 offense was. Now, how come they're not racking up and stacking up more 50-point games? 50 points is a lot. 50 points is hard. And you could say it's a little bit of calling off the dogs, but, I mean, not a lot of teams score 50. Yeah. And the Vikings, I think that they would have had a chance, this year against Atlanta, when they put up 42, because Sam Darnold was feeling it that game. If it had been more competitive, maybe the Vikings would have continued to just go for it, later on in the game. But and I don't think it's necessarily. Well, Kevin O'Connell gets conservative, or Zimmer got conservative after he got a lead and just sort of want to keep things close. Now, I don't think it's that. And the Vikings have had some very talented offenses. I think that it's just hard to score 50. Yeah. Actually, we'd love to go through every single team when the last time they scored 50. The Bears, never. Or, no, the Bears would be like, the 1926 NFL championship over Washington. We scored 77 points. Actually, I think that's kind of true. I got the year wrong, but I'm pretty sure no, maybe the Bears lost to Washington like that. It doesn't matter. I do not care. Next. Mac Craig. When do you think the Lions will finally get their first Super Bowl? Never. Never o'clock. And I have a long-term prop bet with a buddy that after last year, I bet that the Lions would not be back to the NFC title game in the next 5 seasons. And I'm pretty confident in that one because everyone's acting like they're not going to take a huge step back this upcoming season with the brain drain of the veterans. The coaches gone as well, the cap crunch, and plus the entire roster is a year older. And that, at a certain point, that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think that the Lions, I don't think that Dan Campbell could do it by himself. I think that a lot of it was Ben Johnson, a lot of it was Aaron Glenn. So I think that they will regress. I think that they won't win the division in the foreseeable future, and I think that they'll just be back to being a team. Yeah, which would be kind of great. Yeah. Anyways, that's it. Vikings Q&A. This beautiful day, bay. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.